look into the universe and comprehend what it is, because maybe some people don't comprehend that the universe is what it is. But the fact that anyone could look into the universe and say, I think there's no life out there, because there are people that say that to me all the time, and I just look at them in shock, because who could possibly think that? Obviously, yes, none of us know, but I can almost guarantee without any uncertainty that there's life out there, because it seems astronomically mind-boggling that there would be all that out there and nothing is life besides Earth, which it's just wrong. It can't be right. Like, there's no way all that out there is for us. It's just, it cannot be possible. And my apologies for getting so passionate about this, but I've had many argument with many people who think the opposite of what I do, and I think the most of those people is based on religion. That's all I can assume, because they just assume, well, God made us. But I'm sure if you believe in God, He can make other crap too. So He doesn't have He's not like a genie, He's only got one wish to make. He can make tons. So, point is, maybe some people don't think that there's super intelligent life like us out there. That's understandable. But the fact that someone could actually say that there's no life out there is crazy. First of all, though, I would like to disagree, though, and say I actually do think there's super intelligent life out there. I would imagine, based on what I've read, that we're not the oldest, but we're also not the newest one of the planets and solar systems and all that nonsense to come into being. And when you talk about that stuff being created, that is not we're a day behind or a week behind or ahead or whatever. That is millions and billions of years. So the fact that you could consider that we're the only ones doing what we're doing and that there are not aliens out there flying in space, I think that also is wrong. I think that starts to become egocentric in the sense that you decide that, well, of course, maybe there's life out there, but we're the most advanced one. And the fact that and it's not, I don't know, because part of me is well, maybe they're not traveling through space and stuff, and it's not that, it's the fact that we are so close to being able to do that as a species, and the fact that there's a species that could be billions of years ahead of us, that's what makes me think, of course they have to be flying. But I'm not going to say of course, because that is maybe pushing it, because that makes it it's a fact. And I don't want to say it's a fact, but it's an assumption of mine that of course they're doing it, because given time on Earth, we would be doing that. Unless we destroy ourselves, of course. But if everyone just goes into 24 hours solitary, they'll understand life. It'll be great. So if we could all do that, we could have peace on Earth. It'd be awesome. Dude, I really need to freaking eat my cereal. I'm going to try to do it while talking. It's getting so warm and soggy. But I just think that's so, it has to be. And I understand that at the same time I have it's maybe hard for me to have a non-biased viewpoint about it. I am looking, okay, I just want to point out that I clearly know I'm being recorded and I'm clearly talking to an audience, because I am not looking, I look at the wall where there's this little slit of light, of course, right in front of me. But I have not once looked at the left wall, which is the shower. The entire time, I keep looking over at where the audio recording device is. And I'm talking to an audience, and I'm now kind of annoyed that this is in here. But at the same time, I'm getting to some juicy stuff, so I don't really care. I am my biggest fan, in case nobody knows that. I am crazy. I have a crazy ego, which some people may find fascinating, because I may come off as very quiet and shy, but my ego is through the roof. I think I'm one of the greatest things ever, and I'm having fun talking, so bear with me here. But, I don't know, we're talking about space and aliens, and I just think people don't understand how vast the universe is. You could compare not Earth, our solar system, the one that has, the sun and all the planets and all that nonsense, that is, you could not even compare that to, like, I don't think, like, a grain of sand. Like, because that is still not vast enough. Like, there are billions of solar systems and galaxies and all that. And once again, we're talking about, like, billions. We're not talking about millions and stuff. And billions might be too small. I have no idea. Well, I do know. Sorry. My apologies. Now it's coming off like I'm just making up numbers here. I've seen numbers before, and it's mind-boggling. But whatever. Even if it was, like, thousands or millions, this is galaxies. We're not talking about solar system. Galaxies are comprised of, like, millions of solar systems, which is what we live in. Like, I don't think people comprehend how freaking huge the universe is. I'm getting so passionate and heated about this because it just is mind-boggling that anyone could think that there's no life out there. Crazy. Makes me want to flip a table. A life table. But, yeah, whatever. People can have their ignorance. Sorry, I need to eat this food, so we can take 5 or something. I think we're done. Cool. Alright. I'm going to rinse this only because I don't want it to get gross and smelly or something weird. I cannot see it, but I'm going to rinse it. Oh, maybe I just realized I probably shouldn't be doing this. Although I think I ate, like, everything. But this is not a garbage disposal. So if mom and dad are listening to this, just know that I ate, like, everything on my plate. So you don't have to worry about there being, like, big chunks of stuff in the sink. Hopefully. Hooray, we have completed meal 1 of 3. Where is my cup? There it is. Where did I put my cup? There's my cup, there's my bowl. Meal 1 of 3. Completed. Oh, excuse me. Alright, this is kind of a weird, I feel like I have no safety blanket now. It's one of those weird, feelings. The whole time I've been in here, I started off with cramps. So my goal was to get to the toilet and drink my water. Then I feel like I kind of passed that. And then I went to my breakfast, which was cereal. I kind of passed that. And I feel like now I'm at this weird impasse, or, well, I don't know if it'd be an impasse, probably the wrong word, but I'm at this weird crossroads where I don't know what to do next. It's my first moment of not knowing what to do. I've got life ahead of me. So many options. Alright, well, I'm going to sit on the floor. Oh, I'm not very comfortable at all. Ouch. Alright, how about this? Oh, this is better, I guess. Oh, let's see if we can find a comfortable spot to sit on the floor. Because we've got a long day ahead of us. Because I'm crazy! In the best way possible. I do think that's fascinating, though. I think part of me knows that this is crazy because I am always hesitant about telling people that I want to do solitary. So obviously, clearly, there's some part of me that realizes that this is not necessarily normal. But it's very possible that I only think that because I know how people have reacted throughout life when you consider things like solitary and the fact that it's like viewed as torture by society. And that I mean, I had told a few people, and those people did think it was weird. So I think that itself has made me cautious about telling people, and yet I am super thrilled and fascinated by it, and I don't really even question that part of it. Like there's going to be a turning point in here where I feel like that's when it'll start to get real. Like, I'm in here for now. It's probably been like an hour or so. If we were to guess, fine, since I can check the time later after it's all been done, and I will guess the time right now to be like 1 hour, like, I've been talking a lot. I want to say 1 hour 20 minutes. Wait, hold on. When I initially checked it was 30 minutes, so we're going to say an hour and 20 minutes, yeah. Okay, I'll say an hour and 20 minutes. It might only be less, it might be a little bit more. But in general, I'd say it's about an hour and 20 minutes. I think that part will be fascinating too as well to check my time. Because that in itself is probably it was the main reason I decided I wanted to do the audio thing. Was because I wanted a way to be able to gauge what time I thought it was. Yeah. I wanted to be able to say, I think it's this time, and later confirm or deny my understanding of time when in a room that basically time does not exist. Because time does not exist in here. I mean, it theoretically does, but it does not exist in the same way. You're not living a life, you're not going from thing to thing to thing. You're sitting in a room where I am in no hurry to do anything because there's nothing to do. I have a piece of paper I can write on, but I cannot see the paper. Therefore, like, what am I going to do? Draw pictures that I cannot see? Like, that does not work. Like, when I was writing The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, that was hard to do. So, we're going to assume that I'm not going to be drawing photos. Like, that is just for writing notes and stuff. Things that I want to consider for later. So, yeah. That's really all I got to say about that. I don't know why I've got this. Ugh, I'm trying to figure out a way to use this big pillow better. Oh, that is not the way to use it. No, sir. No, sir, at all. Oh, because if I can figure out a way to use this, then that'd be great. What's weird, too, is that I've got this, Angels blanket. Now, my family know what it is. No one else will know what it is. But it's a really comfy blanket. But it's one of those materials that, like, if you move it fast or whatever, it causes these little sparks of electricity. So it's like there actually is light in here with me. I'm creating electricity. Little sparkles every time I move. Let's see. What do you guys want to talk about next, huh? Oh, I should have done, like, questions. Like, if people wanted to ask the questions. Oh, that would have been awesome. If I had, like, some live feed. Because, like, Lauren and I joked about the fact that I should have, like, a night vision cam in here and then have it, like, live streaming on the internet and then have people watch me for 24 hours. But, that would be cool if you did that, but also had, like, a live feed that came in. So, like, there was, like, some ticker at the top that, like, had questions coming in from people. And then I can answer questions. That whatever people wanted to know. That's something that's maybe a little bit interesting about me that a lot of people probably don't know. I love to answer questions. I actually have, like... I have a filter when it comes to... What do you call it? Like... I don't know how to describe it. I have like a society filter where, like, I work hard to make sure that I don't just outright say things that are inappropriate, or, like, when I'm at work and stuff like that, I won't just say whatever. Like, I understand there are, like, some society norms and stuff like that. I follow those rules. But in terms of, like, if someone were to ask me a question, I will, like, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, obviously my math could be wrong, but I will answer that question. Like, unless it's like I'm at a work environment where I feel like that is an inappropriate question to answer, I'll answer a question because, I don't know, like, I don't know how to describe it exactly. Like, maybe it's saying that I don't have shame or I'm not embarrassed of the way I feel about things, but sorry, I'm gonna grab a tissue. My nose is running a lot in here. But maybe it's because there's mold. Oh no! Doesn't mold make your nose run? Allergies and stuff? Alright, maybe I'll die if I don't go crazy. But okay. The point is that I like have no shame or I don't shy away from who I am or what I think or what I believe in, anything like that. So like, I know people could ask me like anything. Actually, it's not that I like will answer it, it's that I actually enjoy answering it. Like, I talked about my ego earlier. Like, I actually think I'm kind of awesome. And I love to talk about myself. But the problem is, I actually realized recently, and it's probably not a problem because then I would be an egomaniac. But I learned recently that I don't offer up a lot of information. I ask a lot of questions. I'm a very inquisitive person, and I like to ask questions of people. But I don't just straight up start talking about myself and offering up information. It's something I've been working on for a while, and it's something I am getting better at doing. But those are usually very like subtle questions. But usually, like if I ask a question, I'll also offer up that piece of myself. That's like my new practice that I've been trying. So that I'm not like just sitting around waiting, because I think that's what I used to do a lot, was I would just basically ask questions, or I'd sit around quietly, and then people would never ask me questions, and I think that's probably because I never offered up anything, so people assumed that I didn't like to talk about myself. And yet it was the contrary, in that I really like to talk about myself, and that if anyone does ask me questions, then I get really excited and like all of a sudden to start talking, because I like to talk about myself. So, that being said, if we had a live stream, then people could ask me anything, and I would be able to talk about anything. I think something that's interesting as well, if we want to get into the deep stuff right now, is that in terms of religion, I think a lot of people don't ask me about it, but at the same time, I don't know that a lot of people know about it in terms of my religious beliefs, because like in my mind, it's written on my Facebook that I am an atheist or whatever, but at the same time, I look at other people's information on Facebook and stuff like that. Like, I am very, like I said, I'm inquisitive by nature, and I think it comes off probably stalkery, but, like, I love to look at people's photos, and I love to, like, read about people. I don't remember it all, so I guess that's maybe part of the problem, is that maybe people will read about it, but I think a lot of people just don't read about it. A lot of people don't care, and that's fine. I don't need people to care everything about me. That's normal, I suppose, but I don't know. Like, to me, I find it fascinating to learn about other people. And so, a lot of people don't ask me about it, but the people that do ask me about it, usually they're surprised that I am that way, maybe because I'm just so happy and uppity, and I think there's a negative stigma or understanding about atheism that basically just makes people think that I'm like a Satan worshiper, which I'm not. I just don't believe that there is some God that created everything. It's not that I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, I guess I don't, theoretically. But there might have... I guess I question where the universe and life and all that came from. But I think what I definitely do disagree with is organized religion, first of all. It's on my list to look into it, now that I'm, like, older and wiser. I'm going to look into different religious beliefs, not just Christianity, but all those other fun ones out there. But, I'm going to revisit Catholicism that I was raised with and eventually pushed away. But what was I gonna say? I was going somewhere. No, I lost it. Okay. Oh yeah, that's what it was. It's not that I think for the most part I do resist. It's not that I resist them, I just don't agree with them. I'm okay with like talking about it with people. I actually welcome the opportunity to talk about it with people. I've talked about it with quite a few people, religion, and I think it's very fascinating to hear how different people approach talking to me about religion, because some people talk about it in such a way where they basically, it comes off very aggressive, and I think it is very counterproductive to what they're trying to do. I think a lot of people, because I think people that talk to me about it, they aren't doing it to understand what I do, or why I believe what I believe. A lot of people are talking to me about it because they want to convert me back. And it's like they're not even listening when I'm talking. It's like they're just waiting for the opportunity to talk again so that they can tell me why I'm wrong and why I'm going to hell basically. And which is, it's funny because I mean I feel like those are the ones that I am pulling the least out of. So it's like those are the people that are pushing me hardest to get back into religion, and yet those are the ones that I'm taking the least seriously because like it's basically like they're threatening me and trying to strong arm me into religion with what they think is probably legit threats, and I'm viewing as like nothing because I don't believe in those threats, because I don't believe in an afterlife or anything like that. So really, they are dangling nothing above my head. But what I find fascinating, or no, that's not where I'm going with this, sorry. But okay, so that's what I think though, and not to insult people, I'm just trying to explain why I believe what I believe, is that I think it's very interesting and silly and all these things that there are so many religions out here in the world that were created by man. I mean, I think people talk about how in their religious origin that it was like divine from God and stuff like that, but really, God does not exist. In my mind, sorry, yes, I understand you might think God exists, that's fine, I understand. But, okay, so we're talking about from Alan's perspective from this point forward, so I'm not trying to insult people with like this is a law or whatever. This is just how Alan believes, because I have my own beliefs. God does not exist, therefore all you basically have is someone with an overactive imagination that basically, or a crazy person that basically is saying this is what God has told me. Because God, obviously, I mean, I grew up thinking that God existed, but God never spoke to me. I'm not saying that I am like the only person, maybe God only talks to certain people, that's cool. But I'm just saying, there is no way to factually prove or logically or whatever that person was actually spoken to, and I think that is the biggest wall between me and religion, is that I have at some point, and I'll explain the turning point probably in a little bit, but is that there is a wall between me and religion, and that is logic versus faith. And I think in order to believe in religion, at least all the ones, especially I would say Christianity, because I actually don't know very much about any other religions really, and that's why it's on my list to look into. But I would say Christianity, one of the biggest walls between faith and logic is that, well, I mean, that is the wall, is that I feel like they have trouble going hand in hand together, and that's why there are certain people that I do like to talk to about religion, because they are people who I consider very logical people and very smart people in life, and yet they also have a level of faith that is what I struggle with most, and that is what I did struggle with most of my life until I eventually decided to kind of cross over and to go into more of the logical standpoint and to forego the faith-based standpoint. Because I feel like faith, in my mind, and once again, this is always in my mind, I feel like faith has to become, if you are a logical person, and you are a person that believes in facts and rules and all that stuff, faith in some sort of a God or a higher power almost has to be blind faith, because there is no evidence to prove that God exists, really, because like you could say like, well, the Bible says so, but the Bible was like written by man. You could say, well, yeah, but God told man what's right, but at the same time, like, I don't believe that. Like, I just think people can write whatever the heck they think, and back then history was so much less documented, stuff like that. Like, if someone were to try to pull that off nowadays, I think people would think they're crazy, and yet that is what happened thousands of years ago. I feel like I'm insulting so many people. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to. I'm like a super nice person. I'm not trying to denounce everybody's beliefs in anything. I'm just trying to explain what I believe. So I'm sorry. I'm probably going to keep apologizing. I think that is something that I think why some people have trouble believing that I'm atheist, because I am such a like moral and nice person, and I'm always, I think to a fault, trying to please other people. I think the other people that disagree with that is my family. My family's always telling me, yeah, right, when I say that, but that's part of my ego, I'm sure, that I think I'm like one of the nicest people in the world. But I really do think that. I think that is a lot of times why I'm very quiet, and all that is because I'm always thinking about what I'm about to say and how it will affect every single person in the room. And usually if there's like, if 9 out of 10 people think it's funny and one person will not think it's funny and might find offense to it, I won't say it. And I mean, part of me is actually trying to dismantle that filter because I think it holds me back a lot in life. And I think I need to I think I need to tear that down a bit and kind of be more open with what I say and not be that quiet person and kind of go back to my more outgoing roots, because I used to be outgoing in middle school kind of, and then I kind of, once I went to high school, I kind of started to lose that. So part of me is trying to dismantle that, but it's a hard thing to do because it's been so ingrained in who I am as a person for so long. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. I welcome anyone who's listening to this who wants to talk to me about religion. You are free to talk to me about religion. I will just warn you that threats about hell and heaven don't really hold any weight with me because I don't believe in them. And I'm not so much... And I think that's the problem, is the people that are the most effective to me are the people who are just talking to me about why they believe what they believe. They're not threatening me. They're not telling me why I need to agree with them. They're just telling me why they think what they think. And I think that's fascinating. And I think and most of the time I don't even like question it. I don't say, well, I don't agree with you and here's why. I just say, oh, that's interesting that you think that. Like, why do you think that? Like, explain it to me. And I think that's maybe a misconception too about... And I'm not going to like act like I'm speaking for all atheists, because I'm not. I'm actually just speaking for myself, is that I would like to be... I mean, it's not that I want organized religion. I don't, because I think like I said, I think organized religion is not accurate. I think it's man-made, and I think it's a nice idea, and I think people keep it around, especially governments, it's in their best interest, because I think if they don't have a moral ground, and I have a moral ground and moral compass and all that, because... And I don't know if it's just because I'm a good person or if it's because I was raised with religion. I'm not sure. But the point is, I'm a super moral person, but if you take away religion and you don't give people anything to live for, because technically I have nothing to live for except life now, because I don't believe in an afterlife and I think this is all there is, if you take that away from the masses and every single person thinks that way, theoretically you could have chaos. Like, you could have complete anarchy because everyone thinks I'm going to live. They finally will start living for the day. And maybe not. Maybe it's just, in theory, that's how you think it would be, but actually people will get over it. But in theory, like, if there's no morals, like, what is to stop someone from, like, killing another person? I don't agree with that because I do have a moral compass, but like I said, I was raised with religion. Take out religion and act like it never existed, it's possible people wouldn't act the same. So I think it's in government's best interest to make sure that there are religions, and I think that's part of the reason why there are multiple religions, because it appeals to multiple people. There are different types of religions to appeal to different people. And that being said, maybe there's a religion out there for someone like me who doesn't agree with Christianity. I think Christianity, from what I've seen... okay, sorry, I don't want to insult people again. First of all, I think Christianity is made up by humans, by man, and it has no basis. Oh my gosh, cats, leave me alone. But, what was I going to say about that? Sorry, the cat distracted me. Oh, but most, I would say, like, Christianity, I think the biggest problem I have with organized religion, it's not so much the idea of God. I think it's very possible that there's some God out there who has created the universe and created everything in life. It's probably not some old man that's in heaven and it's going to take me to him. I don't agree with that at all. But is there some sort of power that created the universe? Sure. Because without that happening, then there would be nothing and life would cease to exist. But at the same time, if life ceased to exist, what would exist? Nothing. So it's kind of like a mind-boggling idea to consider. Like, if there was no life, what would there be? There would be nothing. But if there's nothing, then there's no comprehension of nothing. So, but then how did God come to exist that created the universe and all that? I don't know. It's just mind-boggling. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something bigger out there that is beyond our comprehension of life and what life is. And maybe it just loops in a circle and is in itself. Who knows? Okay, point is... Where was I going with this? Oh, the point is that while I may agree with that fact that there is some sort of something that created the universe, blah blah blah, or there is some reason that the universe is in existence, not reason like fate or anything, but just like something caused life to exist. I can understand that there's some science to that idea. Maybe even a superpower. Who knows? Blah blah. But the point is that organized religion, especially like Christianity and things like that, those ones I have a lot more problems with. Not to say that there aren't a few exceptions out there, but a lot of them are very conservative in the way that they think. And I am, as most people may or may not know, a very, very liberal person. I think I'm liberal even among some of the liberals that I know. I'm pro like every single possible right and freedom that there could exist, and so I think that is also something that puts me at odds with religion, is the fact that even if I were to find like a God that I could finally agree with, I feel like organized religion and stuff like that, unless there's some super liberal one, like I said, that I don't know about. But like I said, I haven't done too much exploration with it yet. Point is that I think humans flaw religion, but at the same time I think they created religion, so it's kind of like theirs to screw around with if they want. So, my apologies for insulting 98% of the people listening to this. And like I said, anyone is welcome to discuss religion with me. I welcome it. I find it fascinating. And I don't resist religion. I actually would like the idea, if someone can seriously figure out a way to convince me that religion is good and I can believe in it again, I would prefer that. I think it's a very wonderful idea. I think the idea of knowing that all this good that I'm doing in the world is eventually going to pay off and that I would go to heaven to live eternity, because I always have wanted to live forever, to live eternity in bliss, that sounds delicious to me. So, if anyone can convince me of that, I welcome it, and I'll be forever in your debt. The problem is, I don't think it is something that I can be convinced of, because I think it is a man-made idea. I think, like I said, it gives people hope in a world that would otherwise have no purpose. And that is how I feel. I feel like the curtain has been lifted. I guess I could talk about that for a bit. I would say that I've questioned it for a while. I remember, I think it was in high school during confirmation, that was when I started to get maybe a bit smarter about things. I started to like maybe get a little more self-reflective about life and things like that. And that was all among my own will, just considering life. And it's possible part of that is because I am so fascinated by space and astronomy and things like that, that I just started to become very fascinated by life and what's out there and kind of understanding my place in the universe. And, but I think, so that was when I think I started to question it a little bit. Like when I was doing confirmation, I didn't necessarily agree with everything you're doing. I think, and maybe a part of the problem with like Catholicism in me is that I feel like Catholicism is very, it's very structured, and it's very, there's like a lot of like rules and a lot of rules and beliefs I didn't necessarily agree with. I think that was when I started to hear about like that like being gay and stuff like that's wrong, and I don't believe in putting people down based on how they feel as a person. You know, whether it's choice or not, I feel like people should have rights, or like abortion and things like that. That was when I think I started to come to a little bit of odds with religion, in the sense that, namely Catholicism, and the fact that I didn't agree with a lot of those things. I started to think like, that doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be denying someone rights based on who they are as a person, or what they've done in life, things like that. And I feel like they're basically saying, well, God tells us you're not supposed to, so you're not supposed to. And I feel like there is such a disconnect with that idea with me, in the sense that I feel like I was being told the same thing my dad used to tell me. My dad did it as a joke, though. See, that's the difference. But I feel like religion does it with a straight face, and they're very serious about it. And it's like, do as I say. Well, it's not that. Yeah, well, it's not because I would say my dad says do as I say, not as I do. Religion doesn't do that, because religion doesn't say do as I say, do it not as I do, and then they are gay or something like that. That's not what they do. But they basically say do what I say. Like, and my dad, like I said, my dad said it as a joke. He wasn't like serious. My dad's awesome. Okay, so but the point is that I feel like religion does that. It basically says like don't question what I'm telling you to do, just do it. And that is like the vibe I have gotten and get from a lot of Catholic people and a lot of Christian people, is that they basically say that this is what we believe, this is what God has told us to believe, told us, not like what I think, and that's fine if you think that. Obviously God's a higher power than you and you should think that, but like I said, the problem is I think man has created these rules and they constantly are like updating it, so I mean I assume that they think that God is like telling people to update things, and I don't know, it just seems a little hokey to me, but that's fine, I don't mean to insult people. But where am I going with this? Oh yes, that was when I started to kind of question in high school through confirmation. Was that they would have like these big discussions on like group retreats where like people would talk about things that are wrong to do, and I remember those being some of the things, and I just started to question. I was like, I don't get it. That does not like, because in my mind, and I think this is the thing that I go back to a lot, and maybe I just had a poor teaching of Catholicism and Christianity as a child, but I feel like when you get down to the base of like Christianity and God and all that, people always talk about God is love, and love is not calling people names and being derogatory and shunning people based on their beliefs and their feelings. Like, I feel like me being an atheist, I would be shunned by so many Christians based on that without them even taking the time to get to know me. And yet I feel like I am such a nice person, such a good person, and I just want people to feel loved and happy and safe. And yet there are so many people that I feel like who could be Christians who would do the opposite of that to me based simply on the fact of that label that I am atheist. And I think that is mind-boggling because, like, fine, if you want to bring these religious things into it, it's like you talk about how God is love and how God tells you not to judge other people, and I just don't understand it. Like, there's such a disconnect with me with that. And maybe that's a problem with a flaw with people in religion, is that the fact that people are breaking it for me, and they're kind of ruining it for me, because I feel like if you had a religion that basically says love is like the key, and people just need to be nice and love each other and support each other and accept each other in such a liberal way that like basically allows everyone to coexist in peace and harmony. If there's a religion that is that, besides like reggae or whatever, I am in. Like, that is something I can back up 100%. Like, I can totally get behind that. But the thing is that doesn't come down to like a faith or anything. That is just a belief, that is like a moral compass that I have. And so I think that's what religion should be for me, is the fact that I feel like religion should just be an organization or a group of people who just happen to agree with the same moral things. But the problem is I just wish life was that way. I wish people didn't have all this religion and turmoil and stuff. And dang it, light is coming through like crazy now, and it's starting to get bright in here, and I don't like it. I can like totally see like the outline of the room and all that nonsense, but that is closer to what I think religion should be. And I think, well, I mean, I talk about that, but really that is what religion is to me. It's not what I think it should be, because that is how I live my life. I live my life that I think people should be nice to each other, and I'm nice to other people. And sure, I get in spats with people, and that happens, but I think I get in spats relatively infrequently. I mean, besides for Christy and I are always butting heads about something, but that's to be expected. But I think in general, that's how I live my life, and I think that is what religion is to me. But okay, sorry, getting back to my story, my origin story. So I was raised Catholic. I did confirmation, all that nonsense. And then it was in college, I would say, that I think that is my turning point. And I don't think it was necessarily... Okay, but the point is, I'm trying to say, is that I took a philosophy class in college. I took it at Fullerton. I think it was definitely at Fullerton. It was part of my liberal studies. And I think unlike religion, which basically said do as I say, and kind of just had like a blind faith to it. And like I said, that could be wrong. Maybe I just had a poor... I didn't have the right people to talk to about religion, and maybe not all Catholics are that way. That's fine. I'm not saying they are all that way. I'm just saying that's how I was presented with it. When I asked the questions, it was kind of like, don't worry about it. That's just how it is. But the point is that... Whoa, it's weird. Is things moving? I feel like I'm watching I put a towel... Sorry, I have to divert here from what I was saying. I put a towel up against the door so that it would cover up the light. And I am seriously like watching where the towel touches the... I don't know how to describe it. Like, right where the light starts and the towel starts, like where they touch, where there's like no light and then light. I'm looking at it, and it looks like it's perpetually moving down, like it's sliding down, as if it's starting to slip away from the wall. But I'm watching it, and it's been doing that for like a whole minute straight. So clearly it's not moving. It's like just some weird trick of the eye. But it seriously looks like it's just slipping down and down and down and down and down, and yet it's not moving. That is point number 2 that I might be going crazy. Alright, something to know. Or light moves. I mean, light does move. Maybe I'm starting to be able to observe light. Who knows? Alright, oh god, uncomfortable. Okay, so I think that was a big turning point for me, though, was in college. Was my philosophy class. That was the first time where it's not that I was just told it was okay to question that which is, but I was actually encouraged to do that. And I think that was the first time I was ever encouraged to do that, to question my beliefs and to question life and all that. And not in a way that, like, I mean, for all I know, my teacher could very much so be religious, and I know a lot of people in my classroom were, but I mean, I ate that class up. I was volunteering all over the place. I was always having something to say, and I think it was like my first time where I truly felt like kind of like accepted and allowed the freedom to do what I wanted to do. And I don't know, like, I think prior to that, whenever I like questioned religion or anything like that, I always like would have the thought for a second, and then I would instantly like feel bad and be like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Like kind of like apologizing to God, like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to think that way. Whereas I don't know, like once that bar was removed and like it kind of just started to kind of come over, and I was like, well, I don't know if I agree with that, and this is why I don't necessarily agree with that, and like asking these questions. And a lot of this was internal monologue. It wasn't like I was talking to somebody, because I had done that in the past, and a lot of the answers I had gotten weren't necessarily ones that I agreed with, and like a lot of them were just like things like, you know, like very conservative versus liberal viewpoints about life and how to treat people and stuff like that, and rights that people should have. So I kind of disagree with a lot of that stuff. And then I don't know, I remember there was the turning point. I mean, that was kind of like when I started to peek behind the curtain. Okay, so I started to like, I think, so if you were to like make an analogy, sure. When I started in high school, I was standing behind the curtain on stage, and I was kind of like, actually maybe not. Maybe you would say it's the other way around. Maybe you were, I don't know. Who knows what side of the curtain you're on? Who cares? It doesn't really matter. No, actually, I'm going to say I'm sitting in the chairs, because we're going to say that God is on the stage, okay? Because God is the center point. He's the main star of the show. So I'm sitting in the chair in an auditorium. They've got the curtain down, and someone comes out when I'm a child and basically says, God is back there. God has put on this whole production. God is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And you, as a child, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this show. It's so exciting. And then as I got older, like after you're sitting in those chairs for so long and nothing's happening behind the curtain, you kind of start to wonder, like, what's going on back there? And so I think that's when I start to talk about the people next to me, the left and right of me, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Are we sure there's actually going to be a show? Like, what's happening? They're like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, yeah, there's totally going to be a show. Didn't you look at the bill or whatever for this play? Like, it's going to be awesome. Like, I've heard such great things about it. Like, my parents have gone, and my grandpa's seen it, and it's great. Like, they've been doing it for, like, hundreds of years. It's, like, such a production. And they're like, oh, okay, sure. And so that's, like, as a child, like, you're starting to question. And that was probably me in high school, where I started to, like, question them, look to the people left and right, and not necessarily getting, like, sure, they're telling me it's okay, but nothing's really happening. And then you get to college, where I have my philosophy class. That's when I stand up, and I'm like, I know you guys say it's cool, but I'm just going to take a peek behind the curtain, because I feel like something's not right here. And that is when I kind of, like, I walk up to the stage, and I'm, like, just starting to think, like, some of this is not adding up. Like, why is nothing happening here? I'm not, something, yeah, it's not adding up. And then I remember the turning point. The day I lifted that curtain was when Christy and I were looking for churches for where we were going to have our wedding. I don't know, we were just having some argument about like whether I was going to be in a church and how she wanted a church and stuff like that. And because she grew up with God and stuff like that. It wasn't the same level at all with me. Like, she kind of grew up with her grandma, and her grandma teaching her about religion and things like that. But it was at some point during that argument where I finally, for the first time out loud, said, I don't believe in God. And that was like me pulling up the curtain and at this theater on stage and seeing nothing. And there was nobody there. There was no production being ready to get set up. It was just an empty stage. And, I mean, that is like the analogy for how I feel about religion. Like, you can't put that curtain back down, put me back in that seat, and tell me that there is a production going on. Like, it is, I feel like, and I don't mean to say it this way because I feel like it insults people, but I've seen the light and there's nothing there. Like, you can't put this curtain back down because I know it's on the other side. You can put it down. You can try to tell me it's not, that he's there, but I don't see it. And there is such a level of faith that is required for religion that I feel like, to a degree, I'm too far gone to get there, because I've pulled that curtain up and I can't think of a way where I could put that back down. And I'm told that there are certain things in life that like near-death experiences or like having a child, things like that. And I will totally talk to Ryan about that, but I have a feeling Ryan, who is my brother, an extremely logical person, he will say that, yes, I've had a child and it's amazing, but I still don't believe in God. Like, because I've talked to Ryan about these things because it's something that I've questioned. And it was something I questioned with my marriage, because I was like, when I talked to my mom about, like, when Christy and I were struggling, it was like her answers to a lot of these things were kind of like, you know, sometimes it's hard and stuff like that, but you just have to have faith in God, and you'll get through it. And the problem is I didn't have a faith in God, and I don't have a faith, and there's so much uncertainty in life that it's hard to have those faith in things. And so when I talked to Ryan about it, he's like, well, you can't be certain about anything, but, you know, he's happy with Milena, and he loves her and stuff like that, and it's just those feelings. Those are what you have to rely on, whereas I was kind of like, me and Christy were struggling with all those things, so it's like, when you need to have faith in addition to that to get through those things, and you don't have that, it makes it very hard. And so I think, I don't really necessarily know where I'm trying to go with this now, but the point is that I think that is a very good analogy for how I feel about religion, and how religion was presented to me, and how I feel with religion now. And I think it's very important for people to see that, in case people do ever want to talk to me about religion, because I think that it's not just a matter of you threatening me, saying get back in your seat or you're going to like get kicked out of the production. I don't care if you kick me out of the front door, because, you know, nothing happens to me regardless. Like, I'd rather go out the front door, like, it's fine, we're done. There's nothing over there. Well, I'd rather do something else. Sure. But I think it's like someone saying that they're going to push some button that's going to drop a trap door and I'm going to fall through it, and like the button that they're pushing is just like a sticker that says push here, and it's like they're threatening that, but nothing's going to happen when they push that button because it's just a sticker. Like, nothing's going to happen. So I'm not worried. And I think that's the other thing that's fascinating, is that you talk about religion and how like people can have like last minute changes and like totally see the light, and theoretically like I could live a horrible life, or I could continue to live the life I'm living. Sure, let's not even go with a horrible life. Let's just say I continue living the life I live. And maybe, like, because like I said, I'm open to the idea of religion, and if God is out there and he proves himself to me, I will totally put that curtain back down. I will say, oh my gosh, you were up in the rafters, or you had like some cloak of invisibility on. Like, I see you now. Awesome. We are bros. I will sit down in that chair and I will just wait because I agree with you. And I will try to convert people. Totally, I would do that. But the problem is that implies that he needs to present himself to me, and that ain't happening. Therefore, I don't believe in it. So we're at kind of a odds with each other. But the thing is, though, that religion says that if someone really truly believes and repents for their sins or whatever, that they can get back into God. So theoretically, I'm just saying, like my mom, I think that's my mom's kind of logic with me, is trying to reason it with me, and I've heard this from other people, is that if you're not sure, if you've got basically two options, you've got one where you can denounce God and one where you can say God exists, and denouncing God basically, if God does exist, for sure, if he does exist, like if you die and you find out God exists, like, oh crap, then you're going to hell. Or you've got this other option where if you think God exists, then you try to live a good life, and then if God does exist, you go to heaven. If he doesn't exist, you've wasted your life in that sense, but life's over, so who cares? You're dead. Doesn't matter. Like blackness. So theoretically, out of those two choices, believing in God would be better because you're more likely to get into heaven and stuff like that. But the problem is with that is that by what I've been raised with the religion is that you can repent at the last moment. So say like, if I were to seriously live my whole life the way I am now, saying, I think it's very possible God exists, because I don't know, but I don't think he does exist. He hasn't shown himself to me, and based on what I've seen from people and other sources, I don't think God exists. But say I were to die, and all of a sudden, like, I would go, I don't know if I go straight to hell or if I go to limbo or whatever, I'd be like, oh my gosh, all this does exist. I'm totally sorry, because I would be, and I would say, I believe, of course I believe, and whatever. Theoretically, I'm just saying, based on what I've been told, I should be going to heaven because I have repented for my sins, and maybe I'll have to spend some time doing some nonsense, like in limbo, to pay off the years. But at the same time, I feel like it's not my fault, because I'm saying, very much so, throughout my life, that I am open to the idea of religion, that if it exists, I welcome it, but no one is showing it to me. And when I have done the research and the steps necessary to find it, it has not taken me to where it's supposed to take me. So, really, I feel like I'm doing my part, and religion and God and all that is not doing their part. So, I feel like theoretically, I should be fine either way. I'm not saying like I'm trying to hedge my bets and make it sure that I have a good spot in heaven, because I don't believe in heaven, I don't really care. But I'm just saying, I'm not worried regardless. Like, people threaten me with that, and it doesn't work for me because I don't agree with it. I think I'd be fine regardless, based on all these things that I'm saying. But once again, all these things I'm saying, I think are things that people have made up. I think they sound nice. I think that they basically keep order in life, and they give people something to live for. Because otherwise, what would be the point? Theoretically, humans should be in the wilderness right now. I should not even be allowed in a room that I live in right now. Like, I just shouldn't be. Like, I should be out in the woods. I should be in a wilderness or in a cave or something. And I should not be able to spend 24 hours doing nothing. I should have to go catch my food, I should have to... I mean, I've got my food just sitting here waiting for me. I prepared it, and I should have to catch my food, and do all that nonsense. Procreate and everything. For, like, one of the first times ever, humans are starting to consider the idea that maybe we don't want to have kids. And I think that's such a fascinating idea. Because I think, well, first of all, I think the world is overpopulated. I think it's kind of disgusting how much humans keep spreading and just having tons and tons and tons of kids, while the rest of the world and populations and species are kind of getting pushed to extinction. I think it's very egocentric and selfish of humans to do that. You freaking hear that? I am so upset. I need to keep talking because the freaking grandfather clock's on, and that thing will chime for however many hours it is. So I need to, like, make sure I talk over that. So I'm just going to ramble for a little bit because I don't not want to hear what time it is. And I'm kind of upset because now I know that it is an hour. Whatever hour it is, I'm not sure. But that's really obnoxious. Like, basically, I'm probably going to assume that it's not 8 o'clock, because I know 8 o'clock would have passed, so it's basically 9 o'clock. That is really obnoxious, and I'm really upset that I did not turn that off, and not think about that. Okay. Alright, what was I talking about? Oh, overpopulation. We're getting down to the big stuff today, guys. This is going to be all these deep conversations. I think it's gross that humans populate so much. They have a quote in The Matrix, the first one, where Agent Smith is talking to Morpheus, and he basically says he's trying to categorize what humans are. And they talk about how humans are not a mammal. Humans share characteristics of what a virus does. They reproduce and they spread and they basically consume every resource possible and then they continue to spread. That they basically do not adapt to their surroundings. They basically adapt the surroundings to match us. Which is very interesting. Obviously, I'm in a house right now. I'm in a room. I'm not just living in a cave somewhere or in the woods or something like that. So it's accurate. And I think it's a very unfortunate thing. And the problem is that, like I talked about earlier, about how humans eventually will begin to go into space and things like that. The problem is, excuse me, I want humans to spread out to another planet because I don't want, like, an asteroid or meteor or whatever to come into Earth and destroy us. Or I don't want someone to set off a nuclear bomb and destroy us. That I do not want. But what I don't want at the same time is us basically to go into space because we can't figure out how to control population. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's so stupid and selfish, and I'm not going to act like I'm not selfish, because I always tell people, when people say, like, oh, you know, like, technology and stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I can't wait. Like, I'm going to live forever, because we're at that cusp, theoretically, where maybe in my lifetime we'll get to the point where we can fuse humans with machine and be able to live forever. But who am I to say that my life holds more value and that I should be allowed to live forever, whereas you've got all these other people who want to have kids and then to say, well, you can't have kids because I want to live forever. So they're kind of at odds with each other. I understand I'm being selfish as well. So mine's more of like a pipe dream wish, whereas theirs is just like, by nature, they feel like they're supposed to reproduce. That's what humans have a desire for. But at the same time, I feel like part of me, it's okay to feel the way I feel because I'm not a religious person, and I feel like a lot of religious people are the people that don't want to live forever, because if you really do believe in God, then you should be okay with the idea of death, because death brings you to God, and that's what the whole point of life is to kind of spread the word and then go meet your maker. So I say let those people die, and the people who don't believe in God are free to live for as long as they want. I would like to live for a very long time with a failsafe to eventually, after thousands of years, decide, okay, life's boring, I'm gonna go. I think it's very, excuse me, it's very fascinating too, because I have legit considered the idea and the implications that if I am seriously going to be able to live forever, I should probably find a good career for me. Because, like, I'm not someone who's very motivated necessarily, like, career-wise. I've always been more of that family man, which is ironic because now I'm kind of torn about whether I want to have kids or not, because they are more of an option, as I discussed, and I don't like overpopulation. But it's fascinating to me that I seriously consider that as a what do you call it? Something to consider, basically, when making my career. Like, when I, like, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't really, like, I don't know, sometimes accounting gets me down, or, like, maybe accounting might be too hard to get into now because I'm, like, older now, and I didn't do it right out of college, and now I'm, like, what, how many years out of college? I'm, like, 4 years out of college, so maybe it's too late for me to get into accounting. But then I'm like, well, what I'm doing now is well, I love working where I work. It's not a career, basically. It's not something that I should be doing for the rest of my life. I don't make that great of money, and there's not really that much I can grow within that job. So I should do something like accounting, because if I can get my foot into accounting, maybe it'll be hard to do. Maybe it'll be really tough at the beginning. But if I can get my foot into accounting, because I almost guarantee I will love it. Everyone who's described it to me talks about how it's repetitive and boring, and you just do the same thing day in, day out most of the time. And that sounds amazing to me. Sign me up. I am ready for that kind of work. That's like what I do now. I do boring, monotonous work. I love it. That's like what I do. But the point is, accounting pays pretty well. If I'm going to be living forever, I should get a job that pays pretty well. Like, that's just the logic that goes on in my brain. It's kind of a weird logic to have, because it's like kind of fantasy logic that you shouldn't be assuming that you're going to live forever. But it's actually the exact same thing that I was talking about, which is kind of ironic and hypocritical of me. It's very similar to that idea of is there an afterlife? If there is not an afterlife, and you live and don't believe in God, then you're going to die, and it's okay. But if there is an afterlife, you should plan for it, so you should believe in God and make it so that you have that option. And basically that's how I'm choosing to do with career, but not religion for some reason. And maybe that's because I grew up in an age where I think technology is expanding exponentially, and I think there is actually a possibility. Apparently I do have a faith. I have a faith in technology. Who knew? I'm learning things about myself throughout this solitary all the time, apparently. Apparently I am not just a straight logical person. There is logic to why I believe what I believe, but I have a faith in technology, in that technology is moving at such a rapid pace that eventually, once you get artificial intelligence involved, it starts to move at a more rapid pace, and assuming that artificial intelligence does not destroy us, which it very well could, and it should probably, because humans are jerks. Assuming it does not, then you start to expand super exponentially, because those robots make smarter robots, which makes smarter robots, which move faster. And eventually, you can fuse yourself with technology and theoretically live forever. Because once you can control... And I don't know this part. This is part of more of me just theorizing. But I assume, because basically atoms are... I don't know, like, if you, say, like, you burn gasoline, theoretically, and I understand it's just theory, this is not practice, because practice is probably very hard to do, and that's why I haven't done it, but if you burn gasoline, it basically it combusts or whatever, and then goes into these other elements. But theoretically, in theory, you should be able to grab those elements and put them, and reverse the combustion and put them back into their state of matter that they were initially in. So I'm just saying, if you were ever able to harness that idea, you could reverse all these things that happen, such as like aging and deterioration